to me, we're having an earthquake. And I kind of like brushed her on the arm and said, no, come on, it's not an earthquake. It's that truck that just went by. She said, no, I think it's an earthquake. And sure enough, after that, I started getting phone calls from some of my friends and people that I know in other areas of New Jersey. I got a phone call from Avalon, New Jersey, from a friend who said that she didn't realize, she thought maybe it was just a lot of wind until she realized that the items in the house were shaking. I heard from people in King of Prussia who said that, everything was shaking. Obviously, you folks on City Avenue. So that's when I started to check with some of the other reporters, some of the police officers that are here investigating this bank robbery. Some felt it, some did not. I was told, though, that the Hamilton Township Police Station was actually evacuated. So obviously they felt it pretty good over there, and that's just, perhaps a mile from where we are. So I believe that I still haven't actually experienced my first earthquake because I thought it was a truck going by. But it did happen, and some of us felt it, some of us didn't. I did speak with a man who was parked in his car not too far from where I was standing, and he said he definitely felt it. He thought that there was something wrong with his car. He said he was parked, and he thought, well, maybe he was on some unsteady pavement, and the car slipped a little bit, and then he realized it wasn't that. It was the ground under the car that was actually moving. So that's our experience here in Hamilton Township in Mercer County. Back to you, Brian.
All right, Kathy, thank you. And I can certainly tell you anecdotally that as many people probably did not feel the earthquake because lots of people were standing in our newsroom at the time. Those who were standing tended to feel the earthquake less than those who were seated and were more subject to the vibrations in the ground. More surface area exposed there. And thank you, Kathy, for calling in. But if you felt it, trust me, you felt it. 5.9 is the magnitude of the earthquake, which is centered just outside Charlottesville, Virginia. Of course, several hundred miles away from here, but being felt in places up and down the eastern seaboard today. Again, you're looking live through Chopper 6 right now, and what we can see in various angles of that camera are people gathered outside. Ordinarily not an uncommon picture at 2:23 in the afternoon, but what we're seeing is large groups of them gathered in various places, including outside City Hall there. Now, this is, I'm told, a live picture in Baltimore, Maryland, where evacuations are underway. You can see the fire department there with the ladder all the way to the roof and emergency workers on top. Whether they're surveying the scene, looking for any signs of structural distress that might have been caused by this earthquake, unclear at this point, but this likely one of many buildings throughout the East Coast right now that are being evacuated. And I can tell you that in addition to that one we just showed you, I want to repeat, because it is worth repeating, that there are high-rises in Wilmington, Delaware, that are being evacuated right now. I have reports that a 26-story federal courthouse in Manhattan has been evacuated. The Pentagon and other federal buildings in Washington have been evacuated. And it is no doubt because of what we were alluding to earlier. We live in a part of the country that is not familiar with this experience. Therefore, we have a lot of aging buildings and infrastructure that's not up to the codes that you might see on the West Coast, which expects this sort of thing. We don't, and so many are erring on the side of safety. I want to send things back over to Adam Joseph at the big board. Adam, you're learning more.
Yeah, and again, 5.9 is the magnitude of the earthquake. The depth, 3.7 miles into the ground, again, near Richmond, Virginia, just to the north and west of there. It's about 200 miles south-southwest here of Philadelphia. But something we just brought up here, I want to show you. This is actually a Richter scale from Millersville, Pennsylvania, out near Lancaster. You can see over here is the times as we go through this afternoon into the early afternoon. 1300 is 1 o'clock at this point. You see everything smooth, and earlier today there was a little blip, but nothing all that bad. Pretty normal for us. However, as you get later into the time, this is where you can see the Richter scale. I was bouncing around in Millersville, Pennsylvania, where you had that feeling of that earthquake, and we felt the earthquake that was over 200 miles away. Again, this was just an image taken of the Richter scale throughout the day. There was a little blip earlier in the day here. That was probably, gosh, that was very early in the morning, before 6 a.m. And then again this afternoon, you can clearly see that it was bouncing around in Lancaster County. Again, it is a 5.9. The exact location here on Storm Tracker 6 3D is just to the south and west of Washington, right near Richmond. If we put a track on there of the distance from Richmond first, or we'll go to Philadelphia first, about 194 and under 5, roughly we'll say 200 miles away from Richmond, Virginia, which is even much closer to the epicenter. We say epicenter, that is like the eye of the hurricane, where the actual earthquake shook the ground and the plates shifted. Richmond 39 miles away. So again, very uncommon for us to feel this. Kathy Gandolfo talking about it, Brian, myself, many people out there in the Twitter world as well saying, I'm on the beach in Margate, Adam twittered me, and they're like, we just felt the ground shake sitting on the sand. What was that? Many of folks, not knowing what it is, automatically say, okay, that is an earthquake. On the Richter scale, 5.9, where does it stand? If you're just joining us now, I showed this a little bit earlier for you. It anyway goes from a level 1 up to a level 10. On the Richter scale. 1 is insignificant, 10 is extraordinary, 6 noteworthy, 5 intermediate. So this is an intermediate earthquake, but again, it's a 5.9, so we'll put it in that noteworthy category, pretty close to a 7, which would be very high. So the structures down there probably, obviously, not earthquake prone, so they're probably seeing a lot of damage in and around Virginia. And we saw also in Washington some of the images and people being pulled out of some of the high-rises, because again, not exactly sure how structurally sound they are at this point. But again, there it is on the Richter scale, Millersville, Pennsylvania. That is near Lancaster, where we saw the earth shake. And at this point also want to reiterate that there could be some aftershocks. Many times the aftershocks not as strong as the actual earthquake that formed, but these aftershocks can happen an hour, a day, a week out from now. So if you start to feel the ground shake yet again, it could just be that along the plates, which there are many plates along the East Coast, have a lot of stress at this point, because it was built up right here, right, where the epicenter was. There was a lot of stress on those plates, and all of a sudden, bam, they shifted, but then that stress is now put on other parts of the plates in and around that, so you never know when another one could occur. But also, many people on Twitter sending me, my mother, my father, they're worried about tsunamis. Don't have to worry about that, because this is an inland earthquake. It did not happen over the open waters. If it was, let's say, off the Chesapeake Bay or anywhere off the Jersey Shore, then you'd have to wonder whether or not it was a plate shift that went left to right, or was it a plate shift that broke upward, which would send water. But we're not having to worry about that at this point. But again, just to tell you, let's move this out of here. A lot of things going on here. It was 200 miles south-southwest of Philadelphia, happened at 1:51 in the afternoon, magnitude 5.9, the depth 3.7 miles under the ground where the epicenter was. Brian, I'm going to take a look at some of this other information, see if I can get anything new. We'll send it back over to you right now.
Yeah, Adam, if you would do me one quick favor, and I want to leave that map up on the big board if we can.
Which
I don't
one?
know if it's possible. The big map of the area that you were playing with
this here?
moments ago. No, the map itself under there. You see.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, you got
3D.
It. Yeah, and see if you can make that a little bit broader, because I want to give people a real sense of the scope of the area.
We're gonna. Yeah, I'll have Paul Hill zoom out.
Felt. And I'm just reading on the wires here that President Obama felt this earthquake on Martha's Vineyard. So just to show how far away
we'll go out a little bit further, and I'll show you. So there's Nantucket here.
Yep.
Here there's Martha's Vineyard right there. And that right there, the distance, you're talking over 400 miles away. You felt it over the ocean and then hitting an island, which Nantucket is. Also, if you're noticing near Albany, there was a 2.2 earthquake as well. So who knows, this could be along that same fault line where there's some sort of stress going on and why this is happening. But right now, again, 5.9 in Richmond, a 2.2 just outside of Albany, which a 2.2 probably didn't feel it at all.
Right.
However, there is a couple of things going on along the East Coast. So this is obviously going to be some attention, Brian, over the next couple of days of whether or not something else happens.
So we are seeing a huge area dealing with this right now, that experience that so many of us felt earlier today, 1:50.